The other day I drew Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo, out of the penalty box. I watched his predecessor about a year and a half ago. I wasn't really sure what to do with this one because, unless I disagreed with everyone else and I actually liked this one, it doesn't really fit with the theme of my show. I'm not gonna just try to stick up for a movie for what little tiny parts of good it might have, because I'm not supposed to be the devil's advocate. But I'm also not necessarily just gonna take pot shots at a really bad movie because I'm not the nostalgia critic. I've already talked about Deuce Bigalow. A link may appear over there. So I will briefly summarize my criticisms. What happens is Deuce Bigalow's a fish expert. He breaks a Gigolo's fish tank, and to replace it, he needs to go on the prowl with his little black book. But since Deuce Bigalow is Rob Schneider and is not a peak male specimen, he has to find the riffraff of the gigoloing clientele. 3 of them actually still somehow manage to be traditionally beautiful, and the other 2 are played by men. Amy Poehler plays one of the women, and she has Tourette syndrome because this is a stupid movie that manifests itself exclusively as corporalalia, which is the involuntary swearing and obscenities. Hang on tight, everybody. I'm about to compliment Deuce Bigalow, male gigolo, so get ready. Deuce's solution for her is actually really interesting and fun, I think. He takes her to a ball game where, when she starts swearing, he just immediately joins in. It's like, you blank, umpire, first base coach, guy in the mascot costume, whoever he's mad at. And she has a great time, and nobody's looking at her now because she's just swearing randomly. If there is a charm to Deuce Bigalow, male gigolo, it is in the ways that Deuce attempts to find ways to have fun with these women on their terms. But, and I may be going way out of my depth here, these women that Deuce encounters just feel like fantasy characters. Like, the whole, women who just can't get laid, apparently, and need gigolos, it just feels like a gender-flipped version of, like, the guy who can't make it work. I mean, these things aren't exactly one-to-one for real, right? I mean, okay, someone who knows more about this is going to have to say something about it, but I don't think it works exactly that way. So, it's all just women who have something wrong with them to the point where they just cannot forge a successful romantic relationship. So there's a woman with Tourette's, there's a narcoleptic woman, a very tall woman whose head is always cut off a frame, a very large woman, and finally we have the woman that Deuce eventually becomes enamored with, who has something up, and it's about to spoil a 15-year-old movie, so turn back now if you don't want to hear it. She has a prosthetic leg, and if you've ever seen any of the commercials, they just love him doing something to the leg and it pops off. It's like, oh! They just love that, so rattled my drink. So all of these women have problems that are not really impediments to their pulchritude, but still aren't looked past by anyone who they encounter, except Deuce, apparently. This is really starting to sound more and more like a fantasy to me. It's like, I want a beautiful woman who has some sort of problem that has apparently completely deflated her self-esteem, and she cannot really form a relationship. Some problem, not a big problem, nothing big, like she was born without skin, just something that I could look past and be the nice guy, and then I'll have me a beautiful wife. Because, if my wife's not beautiful, what's the point? Am I totally off base here? I can't really tell. But the movie isn't funny, so that's why I started thinking about stuff like that. So what about the sequel? I will quickly summarize the parts of the movie I did actually think were funny. The Gigolo from the first movie makes a brief cameo, and he's like, I shall do how to please your woman, but then he immediately starts choking, and he starts thrashing and gesturing with his fingers, and doing all sorts of stuff, and that's mistaken by Deuce as some sort of interesting amorous technique. I thought that was kind of funny. When Deuce picks up a dwarf and throws him out a window, of course there's a dwarf in this movie, it's a friggin' Adam Sandler produced movie, I think it's The Law. When he takes a dwarf and throws him out a window and into one of the canals of Amsterdam, he lands with a bloop sound effect. That was pretty funny. Perhaps most critically, the girl he's interested in this time, who's 20 years younger than him, by the way, but alright, whatever, she has severe OCD, and anytime a lot of things happen, she has to do some sort of ritual. She hears accordion music on the bus or something, and she starts, like, sniffing her fingers or something stupid. I don't remember what. But then Rob Schneider immediately starts doing it and turns it into like a dance. Like, hey, it's this sort of dance, you know, and deflects the embarrassment from her. It's just like the ball game scene. It's undoubtedly the best scene in the movie. In Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo, the women's disorders are more pronounced, generally. One woman has a penis growing out of her nose, and she wears this veil to keep it hidden. And we're on the date, and she starts explaining why she has a penis for a nose, and she's like, my mother was pregnant when she worked at Chernobyl. Okay, movie, this is not the Avengers. You do not need to explain to me why the woman has a penis for a nose. You already have a fraternal society of gigolos. Like, you're already pretty silly. I'm not going to be a woman with a penis for a nose. Nope! Can't do it. So what's Deuce's solution for her? Plastic surgery. Yeah, I'm not kidding. They go to the plastic surgeon, and then she comes out with larger breasts. It's like, look, I get it. It's a switch up. You think this is going to do this. And I also get it in the sense that if they're looking at her breasts, they're not looking at her face. But she still wears the veil. You know, it's not like she's like, I can just be me now, and reveals it, because if you actually saw an actual woman with, you know, the schnoz-dong on her face, then she wouldn't be considered attractive by the presumably mostly male audience, you know? The problem here is that now Deuce is just changing the women. He didn't do that last time. The women had problems, but they were fine the way they were, and they had let them have fun, you know? Now it's just take a hot knife to your flesh and chop you up until your torso looks like 2 lollipops that someone just tied to your waist. You know, I think it would have been funny if she came out of the plastic surgeon and all of a sudden the penis on her nose is now 3 times as big. And just like hangs down to her sternum. And everyone's now, she's like, I don't know why, I just feel way more confident now. And all the guys are like, you know, it might not help her with men, but, or that could even have been a funnier way to have it, that a reason why she was having trouble dating is not because the men didn't like the fact that she had a penis on her face. Maybe they got past it. Like, whatever, she's still beautiful except for that. Except the fact that her penis was huge. And they're like, you know, she's had that thing her whole life, and I don't know if I can compete with the colossal donger that she's had. I can't believe I'm saying that there might have been more fertile earth to sow with the woman penis face thing. Deuce goes out with a hunchback woman, and her solution is to cut out the back of a backpack and cover her hump with it. And that might be the best one of this whole movie. If this was the first movie, on the end of the day, they would have been like, hey, good night, and he would have papped her on the hump, and it would have been bong, it would have made a noise like a bongo drum. Hey, check that out. It's like, oh. And they would have found a group of musicians, and she would have gone on tour with them, and it would have been great, and she'd be the percussive section. But this time it's just, nope, take this, hide your hump. Deuce dates a woman with really large ears, and she gets breast implants too, because apparently you can get breast implants in less time it takes to get your tires changed at Meineke. He dates a really tall woman, which, by the way, you see in the commercial, it's like, Deuce, biggest lady I've ever seen. No, she's not, because you saw the tall woman from the first movie, whose head is always clipped off, and she's like 7.5 feet tall. So, no, she's not the biggest lady you've ever seen. How quickly you forget the women who touched your life in the first, you know, incredibly important Criterion Collection movie of Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. Anyway, the larger, tall, in every dimension woman infantilizes Deuce. You've seen that in the commercials, I'm sure, when he's in the diaper. And the reason for that is apparently because she cannot have children of her own. And so his solution is to go adopt a baby, because there's no Dutch word for adoption, apparently. This somehow just does not occur to her. So you can get pre-made babies? Man, I never heard of that. Next thing you're going to tell me is that you can get pizza delivered at your house. What? There's this really dirty woman, like leaves in her hair and twigs and stuff, caked on dirt, like a female pig pen, basically. And they take her on a gondola ride, and the 2 guys in front of her start to notice that she stinks. And if it were me, I'd be like, sorry guys, I forgot to put on my speed stick today. Because apparently I'm just more damn romantic than Deuce Bigalow in this movie. So, what's his solution for her? Trick her into falling into the canal, and then scrub her with soap. Somebody told her about bathing? Is that the point I'm taking here? This character has no lines, and only appears in a montage, so we really don't know why she's elected to stay so dirty, you know? Like, the penis nose lady gets a story, we didn't need it. This is the time where we needed that to give context. Is she an enthusiastic gardener? Is she impoverished? Is her father a gravedigger? Is she afraid of water, maybe? You know, like, maybe find that one out before you just push her into the freaking canal. Although, I'll say this, if I was afraid of water, I would not be getting on any kind of boat. I'm afraid of bees. I'm not going to the bee hotel. And now that I put my thinking cap on, you know, maybe the really dirty woman with dirt all over her doesn't seem to know anything about water. Maybe this woman doesn't know how to swim. The fact that this does not make sense is not the point. This bothered me a lot because this is the only time that Deuce Bigalow does something to a woman rather than for her. One of the only things the first movie got right is the whole idea of, like, man, treat your woman right, listen, be there for her. And again, I don't think that's what the first movie is about. I think the first movie is about, you know, accessible, low self-esteem, and still gorgeous women who can settle for schlubby guys. You know? But let's say for a moment it's about being there, listening, whatever. You know, let's say it's about that. And in this movie, Deuce Bigalow just pushes a dirty girl off a boat to clean her up. And if she was a character, we could learn why this might not have been a violation of her autonomy, but we don't. It's just, scientists show that more guys will like you if you bathe. And I'm sure someone will say, oh, why did you just enjoy it? It's just a stupid comedy. When I say those 3 jokes were the only parts where I laughed, I wasn't kidding. Everything else I just sat through in just stony silence. I'm just like, alright, none of this lands, none of this is funny. There's one part where Eddie Griffin, I haven't talked about Eddie Griffin's character, but it's not really relevant. He darkens his face a little more, and he's trying to be in disguise as a different black guy. That was, I recognize that could have been funny, but not here. And there's tons of gross out stuff I haven't even described just because it's not really, I'm not here to gross people out. I'm a little too desensitized to be grossed out by any of this sick stuff that happens in this movie. But then Deuce Bigalow pushes a woman into the canals and then scrubs her, presumably against her will. That was pretty gross. Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo, does not live up to the almost pathetic pedigree of its predecessor. I don't seem to have an ending here. So, why don't we end the way this movie ends? With a little stupid montage with like, hey, this would happen to this character, this would happen to this character, in little text boxes as they roll through. So please, for the ending here, please welcome the inanimate players! Can we do a freeze frame? No? Okay, I have to stand still? Okay. Okay. No, wait! The girl he's interested in this time, who's 20 years younger than him, by the way, but okay. I don't want to get that close, Jesus. Nobody likes me being that close.